Hey, everybody. I am glad that you guys were on time because I was a minute or two late. Sorry about that. Today, we are talking about reviews, how to review something. And why? Well, because I thought it might be an interesting topic, frankly. It's not much more complicated than that. I do think that it's helpful if you are obviously if you're going to review stuff, if you love to get on Goodreads or you love to do Amazon reviews or whatever, it's helpful to know how to do it well. But for most of us, I think it's even better to know what you're looking for in a review of something. The reason for that being that I think some people, a lot of people don't bother with reviews, but if you do, it's possible that you go and you see a whole bunch of like 2-star reviews or 1-star review of something, and that scares you off. But then if you actually dig into what those reviews say, it's not, maybe it's not a lot. And if you look at some of the 4 or 5-star reviews, or some of the good 1 or 2-star reviews, if they're good, it can help you to kind of judge a product or a service or a book or something. And so it's helpful to know how to do it. It popped into my head as a possible subject simply because I've been doing it for a long time. The Legendarium isn't strictly a review podcast. I mean, kind of. It's more of a book club, right? We're not technically reviewing these books that we read. We're just kind of discussing them. But I have done a lot of reviews for reviews.org when I led the YouTube channel there. Did a lot of reviews in writing, mostly short form stuff, 1,000 word, 2,000 word reviews of this or that product or service or whatever. So I've been doing it for a long time. And I think it's pretty applicable. So I am going to want to know what you guys think. And so, hit me with your comments throughout. And I will also give you an update on what do you call that thing? The GoFundMe. So we'll talk about the GoFundMe as well. Anyway, so as we get started, I'll just spend a few minutes saying hey to people. So Panda, Linnea, let's see. There's Red and Alex. Ooh, you're baking crisp. Oh boy. Okay. Well, you live way too far away from me to be telling me something like that. Happy Thursday indeed. I don't miss doing this on Fridays because it does clear up my Friday afternoons for other stuff that I have to do. But I do miss being able to say, welcome to the weekend, basically. So we're almost there. Hang in there, everybody. Exactly. Friday Eve. Step 1, mock the author. There you go. Hey, Baba, how's it going? All right. So what should we do first? Should we talk about reviews? Let's first of all, I'm curious before I kind of go into just a very, very brief overview of how I think about reviewing a book. Let me know what you guys think. What is it that drives you crazy about a review when you come across one? And what's something that you feel really helps you out if you're trying to judge a book by a review? And when do you read reviews? Are you somebody who will read reviews of a book before you buy it, or at least read it? If you're a library person, are you a person who goes for that beforehand? Or I know this is the bulk of people who read reviews online are doing it to validate their own opinion of something. And this is not a fault. We all do this. Well, those of us who actually read reviews. This is a very, very common and human thing. We all do this. So, I loved this book, whatever, The Fifth Head of Cerberus. And so I'm going to go check out the reviews and kind of revel in those who felt the same way I did and get mad at those who didn't like it the same way I did. And it's, it's a lot of fun that way. So I get that. Let's see. Yeti lives close enough to pick up script. Well, good for Yeti. Oh, yeah. Okay. Worst thing ever. I didn't finish the book, but I kind of disagree. And you know what? I'll talk about why. I'll give you guys a second to kind of formulate your thoughts. But so here's my kind of basic overview. If you're doing a book, we can talk about products and services and all that stuff in just a moment. But if you're doing a book review, yeah, there are some things that you need to do within that review, and then there are ways that you can do it. And if someone says, I didn't finish the book, but I think that's okay as long as you tell me specifically and clearly why you didn't finish the book. That can be valid. It's that is not usually the way it goes, right? Usually it's I didn't finish this book. I hated it. You will too. End rant, and then they dash it off, right? I hate reviews that just say I love it or I hate it. Tell me why. Exactly. I think. Let's see if I go. Yeah, there we go. This is a 5-star review back in 2015. So I don't mean to pick on anybody, but I just kind of picked this one out as this is not a good review. This book is so good. Here's my book talk. So this is like an advertisement more than it's a review, right? So they're not using examples. They're not being specific or relevant or helpful. It's just saying, I love it. So check out my video. But it's effective for this person probably because what they're trying to do is get, like I said, those who want validation for their opinions. They're trying to hook people who love the book also to get to their YouTube channel and have their opinion further validated, right? So that's what that's about. This is me. There you go. I usually read 1-star reviews to see why people don't like it. Okay. I read reviews, but only trust ones by those that I know the reading habits of. Oh, interesting. So where do you get your reviews? Because, if you're going on Goodreads or something, maybe you follow reviewers there, and so you've kind of gotten to know their habits. But then, how did you get to know their habits? Let's see. I didn't finish it, and here's what didn't work for me is very different from I didn't finish the book, and this author and book are idiotic. Absolutely. Did it really? I honestly, I don't know who that is. Christine Riccio. I don't know who that is. So, like I said, I didn't mean to pick on her or anything, but that's an ad, not a review. So, but that's so many of them. Yeah, it is. It's the bulk. That's the thing about the internet is, it's full of this kind of stuff. She's a booktuber. Well, I mean, I got that. There's so many booktubers out there. I am but one of them. And I don't consume as much booktube content as you guys might think. Maybe I should, but I just can't. So. I'm friends with Daniel Green. I think, did I meet Murphy at some point? I feel like I met Murphy. I maybe not. I know I've met a couple of the other ones kind of in that circle, but yeah, but I don't know all that many. But anyway, I guess my point just being like, I kind of keep up with Daniel stuff and one or two others, but I don't consume a ton of book content. So I asked Alex where you get your stuff. Goodreads, YouTube, and TikTok can be a good place to get to know a reviewer as an individual reader. Yeah, there you go. I really only go off on opinions of people I trust when it comes to books. However, a high star rating after getting a rec definitely puts a book higher on my list. I don't read reviews. Our Discord has plenty of good recs. Yeah, there you go. And I mean, in a way that's what that is, right? They're reviews, but I guess I am talking more, if not professional, then at least professional adjacent, I suppose. But yeah. It's also interesting to see people give opposite reviews for the same reasons. I'll tell you a story. When I was, I had never in my life had scotch before. And I think I've mentioned working with Ardbeg for a little while, doing a little bit of consulting with them on the Wheel of Time. And as a thank you, they sent me a bunch of scotch. Don't tell the state government because that was illegal, but they sent me a bunch of scotch. And I'd never had scotch before, so I was looking up the reviews of some of their stuff before I tried it, just to try to get to know, like, what am I in for? What's going to happen? And if you don't know anything about Scotch, especially Scotch from Islay in whiskey, or sorry, Islay in Scotland, this type of whiskey, it's very peaty, very smoky flavored. It just comes from the kind of the malt and the way they prepare it and all that stuff. So anyway, point being, that smoky flavor gave me. I went to one review site and it gave me 2 reviews, and I kid you not, they were right stacked on top of each other. And one of them said, "It tastes like a damn campfire, 1 star." And then right below that, "It tastes like a damn campfire, 5 stars." And it was, it just kind of goes to show, like, tastes are different. And that actually, that is a pretty decent segue to one of the things I wanted to talk about. Oh, you know what? I could actually add something to this slide over here on how should you do it. Use examples, be specific, be relevant, be helpful, and then be personal. It is about your experience. And this is actually something that I think about with reviews. If you're reviewing art, that is going to be very different than reviewing a product or most services. If you're reviewing something artistic, then it is all about your taste. You can't escape that. That is what it is. And because of that, if you're going to review something artistic, then you can get into the specifics. You can talk about all these things here on the left, all the story and the characters and the writing and the whatever. If we're talking about books and writing, you can talk about all that stuff as long as you're making it clear that, hey, this is how I perceived this book. This is how I came at it, or the impression I was left with. And then once you establish that, like, this was my experience with the book, then you can get into examples. Then you can be specific about stuff and try to be helpful to others who are going to read it. As long as you always maintain that, as long as you always maintain that perspective as an individual receiving this art, right? And so if you're looking for something, a review to help you out, be on the lookout for somebody who is really definitive. This is a bad book, or this is an awesome book. It's so good. Like, here's another 5-star review that had some good things about it and some not so good things about it. I know it's going to be tough to read. It's pretty small, and I'm not sure I can make it much bigger. And again, I don't know who this is. An author, apparently, Mark Lawrence. Sure. This was an odd one for me. Oh, you know what? I know I did a slide here where there were some good things about it, where he was, again, making it about his own experience, right? And here, let me go back to right here. I like this one, comps. This is pretty important. Like, right down here at the bottom, the reading experience and writing put me in mind of Brent Weeks more than any other writer I know. That's a great reference point for somebody, right? So for him, he's saying, this is who it reminded me of, right? It's personal, but it's also helpful to the person reading it. If they know Brent Weeks, then they can say, oh, okay, I liked his style, or I didn't care for Brent Weeks' style. It sounds like maybe this one wouldn't quite be for me, even if it is a 5-star review, right? So let's see, what are some other ones? Like I said, there's good and bad. I like that this was personalized. I think I'm too much of a scientist for the magic system not to jar against me. I like the complexity, the effects, and the ways it was used were cunning, clever, and ingenious, but the ingredients and the execution fill me with unanswered questions. For example, right? This is where it's good. I'm glad that you're mentioning this and mentioning your experience with it, but then, like, what? What about it? So, he doesn't mention anything about, in this case, it's Mistborn, so he doesn't mention anything about allomancy or how it works, or what was an instance when it went really well, or an instance when it wasn't, didn't quite land as well. Anyway, does that make sense? Uh-oh. My brother has entered the chat. Do mine. Maybe we should. Let's see if I can... Let's see, can I pull that up? I'm not sure it's gonna let me. um, goodreads.com/review/show/729024796. Let's see if that works. Hey, oh gosh. Um, there it is. Oh, okay, your review. I thought you meant your book. Um, okay, I was going to review how to buy a dental practice. Oh, okay, here's a good question. How should reviews handle spoilers? First of all, this is funny. Too much missed. How should reviews handle spoilers? That's a great question. So as I'm talking about being specific, let's see, let's pull that back up. So if I'm going to say be specific, what about spoilers? Well, my rule of thumb typically is that if somebody's reading a review of the book, they understand that you're going to talk about things like the characters, things like the pacing or the plot, the story itself. It is the reviewer's responsibility not to give away any of the major twists. But as a rule of thumb, I'd say the first half of almost any book, depending on the book, obviously, but the first half of a book is fair game. It's, you're talking about the setup, you're talking about the things that either did or didn't pull you into the story. But then after that first half, that's usually when connections are starting to be made. And, in Sanderson's case, the avalanche starts coming in. Well, not halfway. His is usually about 95% of the way. But does that make sense? And how fair is that? Let me know what you think. Let's see. Oh, boy. Your outline of factors to address is great. Thank you. But I self-ration myself to approximately 620 words. That can be rough at times. Absolutely. Paul, I know you used to watch reviews.org as far as I remember, right? That's where you found me. And when I did reviews.org, if I was writing a review, I might keep myself to like 800 to 1,000. But if I was doing a video review of something, it could often get to 2,000 or 3,000 words. That I would then deliver, because you can do 2,000 or 3,000 words in about a 10-minute video, give or take. So I gave myself a little more leeway there. Let's see. I do love getting if you like this, you'll like this. Yeah, comps are huge. I mean, there's a reason it's so important in real estate, right? It's what is the science behind pricing or valuing a home? There is none. You just look at the other houses around it. That is the number one most important factor in setting the price for a home sale, is what are the comps. And then you can get into other stuff. Okay, so now that we're in the comps, we have a little bit of leeway. It might be several thousand or tens of thousands less or more, depending on, the kitchen is brand new, or the basement is unfinished, or this or that or the other. Then you're getting into, if you're doing a home, you're getting into the story, the characters, the writing, the specifics. But the comps is like where you start almost. It might not be where you start your review once you actually get down and write it or deliver it. But it might be a starting point for how you begin thinking about your review. Like find the comps and then work your way out from there. I'm not totally sure or totally convinced that I'm right about that, but I think it might be true. Let's see. Generally, I agree, though I think sometimes it's fair for a reviewer to say, I think about the spoiler theory. I have this very specific point about a major spoiler, so leave if you don't want to know. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. If you mark it and say, hey, look, I'm going to give this away because I have to talk about it, that's fair. Yeah, as long as you give the reader a heads up, that's fine by me. Although it is, some people find it difficult to stop reading, right? Separating a review into a spoiler and non-spoiler section would probably be wise. It could be a way to work that. If you like Jane Austen, you'll like my crappy fantasy spinoff. It's funny. She's talking about something that we see a lot, but it's in marketing, less than reviews. Sometimes a review will glowingly compare a brand new novel to some classic. Yeah, that does happen. Um, but so often, you and I we get pitches from, she handles some of the emails that we get, the email pitches for authors to come on the show. And we get these pitches that will say, this brand new book from a debut author is just as good as Jane Austen or whatever. We get a lot of stuff like that, but that's marketing, right? So comps are great, but hurt like Canius. Oh, interesting. I know of a few people who have read Lycanius and really liked it, but I haven't heard much about that. Um, Way too many bad books have been sold as like The Godfather. There you go. There you go. Yeah, I will say this. Okay, so I mentioned here on the how. Oh, oops. How should it do it? How should I do it? Is what that was supposed to say. I mentioned be personal, right? This is about you. This is about your experience. That's with art. If you're reading a review about a product or a service, then it gets a little different, right? So I used to review streaming stuff. Started out doing a lot of streaming products, boxes, streaming boxes, and devices, especially. So, I'd review Roku's and the Amazon Fire Sticks and the Apple TVs and whatnot. And what's really nice about those is you can still use this, but you actually have numbers. You have hard data to work with. How fast is the streaming device? How responsive is the remote control? How much storage space does it have? What's the RAM capacity? Whatever. So you have these like really specific benchmarks where you can compare them against each other and come out with, this is the best device. That doesn't mean there's no subjectivity to it, because then you get into the what's the best streaming device versus what's the best value. So yeah, the Apple TV or the Nvidia Shield they're great devices, but they're also 3 or 4 times more expensive than most other streaming devices. So what's the value? So there are judgment calls. But then when I moved from streaming devices into streaming services, it got a little trickier because you can still get some of that hard data if you're comparing like HBO Max versus Netflix versus Peacock or something. There are numbers you can work with there, but a lot of it is going to come down to what content do you want to watch, right? So that got really tricky. And when I was there at reviews.org, they were talking about having me do reviews of content, reviews of shows. And I was like, I could, with the Legendarium, I talk about content all the time. And so I can do that, but it's so different from reviewing a product or most services. So anyway, I mentioned that in part just because that's something to be on the lookout for. If you are reading a product review and it's all about, here's how I felt using this product, that's a bad review. But if it's, here's how the product actually performs, and here's how it might help you, or here's how it means to help you but doesn't, or whatever, then that's probably a good product review. So let's see. In fairness, I sell Strange and Normal as it's like Austin and Pratchett had a baby. Nice. Chesky disagrees. Well, there you go. And that's, again, bringing it back to products versus something like art. We all have to disagree about stuff, right? We can't just there will never be a consensus on whether something is good or bad art, because everybody takes it so differently. So anyway, all right. Yes, I do want to hear more of your thoughts on this, because this is a subject I want to revisit, in part because there is so much out there. There's so many things for us to, reviews for us to read. There's so much content out there that it should be helpful for us to go find reviews and and use them to decide, what am I going to read next? What am I going to watch next? What am I going to spend my time on, basically, and money in most cases. And so this is a topic I want to revisit with a little more preparation. I had this idea a couple of hours ago, and I'm solo parenting this weekend, and so I didn't have time to prepare a whole bunch of stuff on this, but I kind of wanted to get my initial thoughts out there and get some of yours as well, so I can revisit this topic in a few weeks, maybe with somebody else. And this might be a good one to get somebody like Daniel on, or I don't know, something. This could be a fun topic to do with somebody else on the stream. So yeah, let me know what other thoughts you might have. Like, what else should we add to this list, basically? So let's see. Green Team did an episode on 1-star reviews. Yeah, it's fun. It's they're very polarizing, right? But so 5-star reviews can be too. I remember when this was early on in the podcast, so this would have been 2015, maybe 2016 tops. It was like episode 80 something. Todd and I did a discussion with Celeste Cheney. It's the one and only time I can think of when we had an author on to discuss their book. And I've talked about why that was tricky. Because basically, it's tough when an author is sitting there in the room with you and you're recording the podcast. It's tough to go, okay, so that's what I loved about the book. Let's get into what didn't work for me. It's uncomfortable. It's weird. And so I have stayed away from, like I said, having authors on to discuss their own books. That's why I came up with one reason why I came up with the author shelf in the first place. But anyway, after that discussion, I was talking with Celeste about her book, and it might have been before that. I think it was after that discussion, and she asked me if I would go on Amazon and review the book. I said, yeah, I'm happy to do it. I told her, but I'm going to give it 4 stars. And I, again, in private, I gave her my reasons why, and, told her, it's easier to say it when you're off mic, right? I'm not asking her to give a public reaction on the spot, right? So I said, yeah, I loved this and this and this, but there were, these things that didn't quite work for me, or this moment in the book that I thought could have been handled better, or whatever. So I'm going to give it 4 stars. And she was like, great, as long as it's an honest review, So 1-star reviews and 5-star reviews are sometimes the least helpful. Sometimes they're really good, but let's see. Better version, maybe skip, rent, or buy. Oh, interesting. Okay. Stars are an odd metric. I don't mind them. It's kind of an established way to do it now, right? It's who started it? Let's see. Siskel and Ebert had their thumbs up, and then we moved on to stars. Yeah, I don't know. What would be the better way to do it? I'm not sure. Skip, rent, or buy. Let's see. Enjoyability versus quality of writing. Again, very, very subjective, right? Oh, I do love these. Yeah, that's like a legendary version. The sugar-free gummy bear reviews on Amazon. Those are great. There was also the there was one for an industrial size, and I do mean like a barrel, like a 60-gallon barrel of personal lubricant. And people went to town with the reviews on that. It was available for purchase on Amazon to anybody. The reviews were hysterical. So nobody's trying to be helpful there. Everybody's just trying to be funny, and they often succeeded. Absolutely. How do you tell the reviews are fake? That is such a great question. That is one where I might want to stop and consider that and come back to that in a future version of this topic. But off the top of my head, it can be really tough. I mean, Amazon tried to do the thing where, it's a verified purchase, but come on. That's really easy to get around. If you're If you're a publishing company who, wants to juice your reviews, it is not difficult to start a new account, buy the book, and write the review, or post the review, whatever. So that is a great, great question that I'm going to put some thought into. Off the top of my head, ooh. No, it's too tough. I was going to say on the internet, if you're on a consumer generated review site like Amazon, like Goodreads or whatever, if something is impeccably written, grammar wise and spelling wise, from an account that's kind of anonymous or doesn't have that many reviews or whatever, it might be fake. It's just one of those weird laws of the internet. Like how do you tell if someone is sending you a message, like are they texting you? Like if you're on Facebook Messenger or something like that and you get a message, how do you know if they wrote it from their phone or the computer? If they wrote it from their phone, then the first letter is capitalized. And if it's not, then they were on their computer and they just dashed it off, right? It's this weird thing about the internet where we don't follow grammar rules as closely. So that might be one way. But even then, I'm like, it's tough to say. But I love that question. I'm going to consider that. Let's see. Stars are so subjective and don't really tell you anything. Trying to switch to a 10-point scale. Got to use the half stars. Yeah, and it's like, what's the limiting principle? Where do we stop? Is out of 10 stars, then you get reviews out of 100. So you can do 72 out of 100, right? It's tough. I kind of like 5 stars. It's like if you take a good survey, it's hated it, or sorry for you, hated it, didn't like it, was neutral, liked it, loved it, right? It's pretty simple that way. Let's see. Knew you would bring up the barrel. Because, of course, that's the internet story I would remember for a decade, right? Let's see. Have you heard of the Cawpile review system? Okay, I will look that up. I have not heard of it. There's lots of different systems. I kind of had my own personal system when I was at reviews.org. But if you go to like Consumer Reports, they have their own internal system. U.S. News and World Report, they've got their own internal system. So yeah, maybe I'll look that one up as well. Do people do fake reviews of books? Am I just too naive? You might be. Yes, it happens all the time. You're probably not going to find a lot of fake reviews for a really popular or well-established author, or somebody who's dead. So Tolkien's not going to have a lot of fake reviews out there. They don't need to. They don't need to juice the sales. Brandon Sanderson doesn't need to juice his sales. Steven Erikson doesn't need to juice his sales, or whoever is popular and established. But if you have a brand new author and the publishing house is trying to make fetch happen, in that case, they may task a marketing team with coming up with reviews and just putting tons and tons of 5-star reviews on a book. Some 4-star reviews are even fake because they don't want it to seem too unrealistic. So you'll get some fake 5, 4, and 3-star reviews. Anyway, so yeah, it's really, really tough to know which ones are which. Let's see. People lie about what they read, not out there to also lie about content of it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like the old, oh, no, I've totally read War and Peace. Yeah, no, you haven't. You have not read War and Peace. Stop lying to me. I think the only person I've ever met who said, I read War and Peace cover to cover and I believed them was Kyle. He would, and he did. So let's see. Chat GPT reviews Faulkner. There you go. Let's see. I always appreciate getting both pros and cons. Helps me know they aren't being overly reactive and have really thought about it, unless it's truly 100% terrible. Yeah, there's that legendary worst book I've ever read. Or I should say worst 3 chapters I ever read, because that was all I could take. I had nothing redeeming to say about it, so I didn't write a review. Let's see. Oh, and yeah, bots are everywhere. Yeah, and you can do what you want to try to combat the bots, but to paraphrase Ian Malcolm, bots will find a way. Do people fake bad reviews? Well, yeah. I mean, look at what happens with Rotten Tomatoes, right? When was it The Last Jedi? I'm sure it happened with The Last Jedi and with the Rise of Skywalker. I know it's happened with a lot of other things where like 8chan trolls will get together and review bomb a movie and try to drag down the audience score of a movie. So yeah, that totally happens, but usually for different reasons, right? It's less marketing and more like culture war BS kind of stuff. I tried to read it 3 times. You're talking about War and Peace? Yeah, I believe it. Well, they were bad movies, but they were getting review bombed before they came out. So before these people had seen them, they were review bombing them. So, oh yeah, there you go. See, if Kiptan says it's true, then I feel like I'm on firm ground here. All right. So yeah, let me know. I think the fake reviews thing is maybe my number one thing I'm going to add to this, because like I said, I want to revisit this topic, and I'm going to start wrapping up here because, like I said, I'm solo parenting, so I've got the kids inside watching TV right now. We don't want to do that for too long. You guys should be glued to your screens whenever I'm live streaming, but not them. But this is, like I said, it's a topic I'll revisit. This is probably my number one thing that I want to get into, to talk about. Before I go, though, let's go ahead and check in on what's that thing called? GoFundMe. I can never remember what the name of that service is called, but it's GoFundMe. Okay. Oh, gosh. I have to sign in, and they're sending me a code. I hate that. But let's see what I can get. Okay. And no, you guys don't get to watch me log in. Thank you very much. Okay. But I want to get into... I have not updated it yet. As far as putting the numbers down, I updated it kind of the day after we started, but I know there's a couple others that I need to add in. So let me get all my info straight before I do that. And I'm being reminded I need to put a link for you guys in there. I will do that. Okay. Okay, I can do that in my head. Let's pull it up here. And there we go. Oh, that's way too small. Let's see if I can. Oh, okay, that's too big. Okay, so we're at 468 out of 1,000. That's fabulous. After 1 week, 8 donations. That gives you an idea of how generous some of you have been. And I mean, all of you. Wow, that's pretty incredible. 468 out of 1,000. After the first few, these were the standings. Redwall, Dragonflight, and A Wrinkle in Time were the ones that had gotten votes. Since then, I think we're up to, let's see, did this one, the anonymous one did not put, I need to reach out to them because they did not put something down as far as I can tell. So I'll reach out to them, but I know we got 25 more votes for Redwall and 75 for Dragonflight, if I remember correctly. And so that puts it up to 150 versus 100. So A Wrinkle in Time has fallen behind a little bit. And the other ones haven't come in yet. So no Lovecraft or Erickson. No Erickson. I'm shocked, you guys. Like I'm really shocked. None of you have said, oh, Titus Grown by Mervyn Peake. Okay, there you go. Got to put that one on there too. So I will update that before I go to bed tonight. But anyway, that's where that stands. Again, thank you all so much for the generosity here. I really do want to get to 1,000. I will make another push on Discord and elsewhere, Twitter, whatever else. Twitter might be dying, which would be sweet. But for now, it's still useful. So we'll see how it goes. Oh, that's right. I need to put a link for you guys in the chat. There we go. Okay, so there is the link, and I'll once I'm done with this, I'll put it in the description as well. I forgot to put that in the description, but I will do that. I don't believe you. I don't believe you for one moment. I've known you for too long to not know that you're a bot. Good. Yeah, I'm glad there's some. I'm glad there's some interest there. I hope the very, very kind of surface level brief version that we did today was interesting, but I know there's way, way more to this topic, and so like I said, I'm excited to revisit it. So I look at your TV and don't see something. Don't see anything on. Yeah, I'm you can see like the ladder in the background. I've been kind of repairing like some of the foam. Yeah, there's no Roku on my TV right now, so how do you even know that I'm not a bot? Because that was my whole thing. Anyway, all right, thanks everybody. I'm gonna go be a dad now, so enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and then when tomorrow comes, enjoy your weekend. For those of you going to JordanCon, I will see you on like Thursday or Friday next week. There will be no live stream next week, probably, because I'll be at JordanCon. So I know some of you will be there, and I am looking very much forward to seeing you. Otherwise, yeah, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Enjoy yourselves.